What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. First episode in the new office here today. Today we have with us John Perez. John, would you just mind sharing with us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and to follow that up, the story of your personal ground zero moment and what you've learned from that to get to where you are today?
What's up, guys? Hey, my name is John Michael Perez. I'm a real estate investor in Austin, Texas. I run a team of 4, and we're growing rapidly. Here in Austin, I also do a ton of flips. We just purchased 2 Airbnbs, and I think our main goal here in Austin is just to provide as much value as possible to both our clients and to the people that we surround ourselves with. Like our brokerage, and to people that are just in our circle. Yeah, that's who I am right now. And your question was, what is my ground zero, or where was my ground zero? I mean, I have many ground zeros. I've gone through a bunch of ups and downs, but I continually have a positive mental attitude through every single one, and that's what's got me to where I am. They call it PMA. Bobby Castro calls it PMA, if you know who he is. But yeah, man, I grew up in a 2-bedroom trailer. Fell out. Before that, actually, I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. I was born in a 1-bedroom apartment, and at the age of 2 years old, I fell out of that apartment, the top story, and I was 2 years old and fell out, and CPS came out, and they said they thought that my parents pushed me out of the window. They did not. Luckily, they loved me. I was just thought I was Superman. But that was probably my first ground zero, man. I survived. I didn't have any broken bones. They said it was a miracle. And then from there, when I was 6 or 7 years old, we moved into a 2-bedroom trailer in a really fancy trailer park. I'm being sarcastic. I just one good thing throughout that, me growing up, was I always kept a smile on, right? So no matter how bad things were, even if we didn't know where our next meal was, we kept a smile on. And there's people that have been in my life that brought food to us when we didn't know where our next meal was. And those people, those memories were etched in my brain the entire time, right? And I'll tell you a little story later, but I've used those experiences to actually repeat the process of just giving back. You know, I grew up with people that raised me that didn't have control over their own life, so they lashed out, right? And I had to learn to forgive them. And I won't go too deep into that yet, but I had a gray cloud over my life until I learned to forgive. And when I let go, my life drastically went upwards. Yeah, I was a server for 8 years. I waited tables for 8 years, didn't go to college, even though every single person in the world told me I needed to go to college. So one day I just quit my job on a whim, and I was a musician as well. I thought I would become a professional musician. So I quit my job on a whim and was like, you know what, I'm gonna play guitar and figure it out. So 2 months later, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was like, hey, where's the money? Made no money. And so I Googled how to become a millionaire. And I think the second or third option was real estate. So I call my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and I go, hey, I think I want to take a real estate course. She goes, well, where are you going to get the money to pay for that course? And I said, I don't know. but I'll figure it out with a smile on my face. And I figured it out. And that was, sorry, I thought I turned that off. And that was a little over 5 years ago. And yeah, now I own close to 3 million in real estate, and with no college education, but just a lot of drive and me caring a lot for the people that I surround myself with, because I believe that the person that cares the most wins the most. And I just want to be a source of delight for the people that I surround myself with. I want people, when they think of me or my business, I want people to get a dopamine hit, right? They think John or Impact Property Group, like they get that same feeling that when they eat a cookie or drink sweet tea or put some barbecue in their mouth. I want to get that same feeling. Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much my story. Just a little bit glimpse. But I'll tell you one thing. I had a lot of false beliefs that were made based off of assumptions. Like I had to go to college or I couldn't have tattoos. But those false beliefs never served me. So I made the decision to not let false beliefs serve me, or assumptions. Yeah.
No, I love that, man. I love the story, and I feel like the biggest thing that I feel like impacted me specifically just about that was the part about always having a smile on your face. And I just think that that's so important just because I think there's so many of us, I mean, like that I know personally, a lot of young kids now, and just, I mean, not even necessarily young people, but just in the world today, that there's a lot of people that are really quite the opposite. That,
Yeah.
everything that goes wrong in their lives, it's like immediate distraught. Like,
Yep.
and it's woe is me. There's a lot of different things. And I'm not necessarily trying to call people out for like this victim mentality thing. Like that's not necessarily where I want to go with this. I'm just saying that I think it's so important that you're able to see the positives through all the
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
And with there, and there's a lot of negativity going on in the world right now. So I think being able to to carry that with you, to bring that dopamine hit to every interaction you
Yeah.
have, is just something that's extremely important. I mean, and that like the people around you that you have that effect on don't even realize they need it, but
Mhm.
you come in and you make their day better. And I
Yeah.
just think that that's something that's so awesome
Yeah.
and important. And that, like, just the fact that you're able to recognize that excuse me, that you're able to recognize that and say, like, that's the type of effect I want to have on people.
Yeah.
And that's the type of mark I want to leave on this world. I think that's so, so important that, a lot of people my age don't necessarily realize that you can do that. I think a lot of us get confused and think that, like you said, these false beliefs that are put on us by somebody else,
Yep.
that you have to go to college or you can't have tattoos
Yeah.
or whatever that thing is. We think that because somebody else says those things, that that's what we have to be. And that's where I think it's so, so important in what you said, that, you decided this was the type of impact you wanted to have on other people.
Mhm.
And that's where you've now been able to step into this new role and say, like, and you actively made that decision that that's what you were going to be. Where I feel like so many of us don't choose what we want to be. We take what other people say and then we go and become what they say we're going to be. And
Yep.
I think that's so back asswards.
Yep.
And, it, it's just, I wanted to shed a little bit of light on that too. But one of the things that you gave me a few different things. I was scribbling some notes just as you, told me the story there. A few different things that I wanted to talk about. And I think one of them is just forgiveness. Just because, I mean, I've been hearing a lot about that lately. And I mean, and it's something that I've dealt with as well. I've caught myself here just recently, like getting like upset about like situations that I really have no business being mad about. Like they either happened years ago, or I'm mad about it and it's just not worth me being mad about it, or whatever that thing may be. And like I've kind of just started to look at it like that moment where I'm like upset and whatever is kind of just like a waste of time and energy. And that's where I think, like, for me, what I feel like forgiveness has become is almost like this, like, quote unquote, get out of jail free card, where, like, you're just like, and I'm gonna let, and I want to hear you talk about this here too in a second. Just I want to try to like finish up this thought, just that, like, just in you allowing yourself to forgive that person, it really doesn't matter whether or not they forgive you or they care. It just gives you the peace of mind that, like, you know what, I'm not going to be mad about this anymore. I'm not going to let this affect my mood and the way I act anymore. And like just that like act of letting go, like takes that weight off your shoulders and allows you to like one resume life, in a way that you couldn't before, but also in a way that you can now plan forward to achieve more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm going to sort of weave myself in through this conversation, or weave my my points through this conversation I'm about to say. But I think that if we want to achieve big things, we have to allow for more capacity in our minds to figure out bigger problems and make bigger solutions towards those problems. And the thing is if we want to figure out solutions to those problems, and we only have a certain amount of capacity to deal with, if we have a ton of unforgiveness and a ton of what's the word, resentment towards others, that actually takes up some of that capacity to figure out big problems, or to do more for my clients, um, or do big things for my community, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. We only have a certain amount of capacity to deal with, you know what I mean? And so the quicker we forgive others, or for the quicker we figure out small problems to small solutions to small problems, the quicker that we can move along to big problems, you know what I mean? And it opens up more capacity. So, you know, I had a gray cloud over me for a long time because someone hurt me very badly. And I won't go into details with that, but um, it was like a gray cloud. Like I felt like I was being held back, literally held back. And so um, I was going to bed one night, and uh, it was weighing on me. This is a couple years ago, and I wanted to forgive. I wanted to forgive. I wanted to forgive, but I just didn't understand like why, right? So why? And so I was asking myself, how do I forgive quicker, right? How do I how do I forgive? And and this thought came to me, and it's a weird thought, but I was thinking, you know what? How about I try to understand where this person's coming from, right? And so then I started breaking down, like, maybe this person's father or mother was the same way to them, right? And maybe all they ever knew was being treated like this, right? And maybe their entire life, all they understood or all they ever knew was being treated like that. So now when they have the authority over someone else, they treat them the same exact way. And so the realization that I came up with was, if all they ever knew was that, then of course the result would be to treat me like that. And so the quicker I understood that I needed to understand where this person was coming from or how they live. And now I'm not saying the things or whatever they said or the mentality or, the control that they tried to take from me was justified. But when I could understand where they were coming from, it was easier for me to let it go. Yeah.
No, I think that's such a big point. I think that that's something that's definitely helped me along the way too. I feel like I've naturally kind of always been a more like empathetic person,
Hmm.
just to where like when people approach me a certain way, I've like always just kind of had a curiosity as to why. Like
Yeah.
what fueled that interaction?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I've always just kind of been like inquisitive that way, I guess.
Exactly.
But but that's where like I think what you bring like to the conversation there is so important because like I think a lot of us don't really care in some cases, and we don't try to we don't ask ourselves why that person reacted that way, or the
Mhm.
way like the reasons that those events unfolded the way that they did, or what exactly what chain of events caused all of those things to happen. And I think that, I mean, one, that's a big thing in the business world, but also just, you know, I mean, obviously, like we just mentioned, just in life.
Yeah.
Like, because you can look back sometimes and you can say, like, this event just happened, but you can look back and find something this week, last week, the week before, 7 days, you know what I mean? However many days, you can see something every day looking back that led up to that moment.
Yeah.
And I know like everybody knows like hindsight's 2020, like how that works. But like when you're able to then pick that out and like take what's the word like you're able to acknowledge those things, you can then apply that moving forward. You can
Yeah.
say like, okay, this is what caused this reaction, this is what caused this to happen. You can start to pick those things out and actively pick and choose the way that you react to things, knowing the way that other people are going to react to things or the way
100%.
that you react.
I
And I
agree.
think that's just more like what's it, like spatial awareness. I don't know what the exact
Yeah.
wording is there. I'm not claiming to be any sort of expert, but like just that level of like knowing how you're going to react to a situation, and how other people are going to react to the way that you react to that situation. And I
Well,
think like it's
I think we
yeah, go
owe
ahead.
it to ourselves to break that chain, right? Like, so like if I want to be a better brother, if I want to be a better husband, if I want to be a better father, then I need to break that chain and create an amazing legacy, and no longer look at the people that hurt me and hold on to that, and then use that same resentment, and then echo that same resentment, or echo that same abuse, or echo that same hurt, right? Because if I hold on to that, there will be an echo within the results of my future. And so they say generational curses, they call it a generational curse, right? You know, whether it be drugs, or whether it be abuse. But that is my commitment to my future, is to break that generational curse.
No, I love that. And I love that like you pointed that out too, because like I mean I can personally vouch for that like saying, because like I mean just for an example, like you mentioned like drugs. I don't want to go too far on this because this isn't the main point, but like when you know like a mother or father gets into like an addiction type, you know, uh, situation, like whether or not they've already had their children at that point in time, like their children's likelihood of falling into that same addiction later in life increases like tenfold. And I don't know the actual statistics behind it. I know I've seen the numbers, but I don't remember them. But I just know that like that environmental factor has a huge impact on the way that they see
Yeah.
things, and that they're going to react to the same problems when they're approached with them later in life. And I just kind of wanted to like throw that out there to like back up your point. But I think another one of the things that I really loved that you mentioned is just like kind of going back on like the active choice that you make and the effect that you want to have on people is your why. And
Mhm.
you've said like because of the experiences you had growing up, and because of the way that like you've just like found the energy that no matter what's going on, I'm going to keep a smile on my face because of the reaction that I want to bring out of other people. And I just think that's so powerful, and like that's where you're so clear on your why. But for some of us out there who maybe aren't exactly sure on like the mark we want to leave on this world, how can we kind of get more clear on that, and like how can we get more clear on the effect that we want to have on people around us?
That's a good question. How can we get more clear on the effect that we want to have on others, is your question?
Yeah.
Um, well, I think that, you know, at one time, someone came to my trailer, the 2-bedroom trailer, and they brought some church's chicken to my house. And I remember seeing my dad take that food. You know, there was stairs down, and he walked down the stairs and got the chicken from this guy that gave us to us, and little did that guy know that we didn't have a meal to eat, right? And a few, actually 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, I don't remember, in February, um, from real estate, I was able to purchase 1,000 steak meals for my community when the freeze happened in Texas, and our infrastructure is not um, made for freezing weather, and so um, it was really cool to see families come through the drive-through and us hand them the Texas Roadhouse steak dinners. And it was cool because a mom, she was coming through the drive-through and she got 3 meals, and it was just her and her kid. And she goes, "John, I'm going to be honest, I got 3 meals because we don't have food to eat for the next day. Tomorrow, we don't have food to eat tomorrow." And when that happened, I remembered back when the guy came to our house and gave us the food. And it was just like, it all, I remember that. And then when I was given the food, I was like, wow, it was like in a movie where it takes you back to that memory instantly, right? And I was just like, man, like I, you know, I could have used that memory as the opposite, right? I could have said, you know what? We never had food. I'm gonna hoard all my money, or I'm gonna hoard, or I'm gonna, I don't know, not do anything with this. I'm not gonna use the money I've earned as a tool to empower my community. You know what I mean? Because nobody's done anything for me. Um, but that was a full circle moment at that time. And your question was, how do we figure out, um, what was it? How do we figure out our what was the question again? I forgot.
Yeah, it was just more of like, how can we be more clear on the effect that we want to have on others?
Yeah, yeah. And that's how I became more clear, I guess, is I looked at the positive side of where I came from. There's a story of two brothers that grew up in a house that had a dad that was a drunkard, right? He came home every day and he was drunk. And I don't know if you've heard this story, but he came home every day and he was drunk, and every day they grew up and saw their dad and he was drunk. And then, 20 years later, they interviewed the two brothers, and one brother was homeless and he was on the side of the road, and he was a drunk as well. And they asked him, "Hey, why did you become a drunk?" And he said, "Because I grew up and all I saw was my dad being drunk." And then they interviewed the other brother, and the brother was very successful. He was a businessman and he had his life together. And they said, "Hey, how did you become so successful?" And he said, "Because when I grew up, my dad was a drunk." And so taking their situation and just looking at it in different perspectives, they branched off to two different results. And so I'm going to say PMA, positive mentality, at all times, because if we look at things differently, if we change our mind, if we transform the way we look at things, it will literally branch off to a better avenue.
No, absolutely. I think that's so powerful. And I think like one of the quotes that comes to mind for me, just like in these stories that you're sharing, is like one that I heard a little while back that has stuck with me is your mess becomes your message. And
Hmm.
I just think that like that kind of encapsulates exactly what we're talking about, just because like you're talking about the experiences that you went through. And you're saying, like, I know what it was like to be in those shoes. I know what it was like to not know where my next meal was coming from. I know exactly what that was like. And now I want to help the me from X amount of years ago that was in that position, that
Exactly.
didn't know where his mood was coming from. He didn't
That,
know what was coming next. And like, and now you are becoming that person who showed up with the chicken.
Yeah.
and you're coming to the door and you're handing
Yep.
it off to more families, you're leaving that mark. And that's where I just think some of us, and like, no, I'm not saying that all of us have to have, a specific moment like that in our lives to have a mission. But what I mean is just that there's something that's happened to you throughout your life, wherever you are right now, that you can look back on, and you can, like, that one memory that just sticks with you more than anything, that somebody had that effect on you, or that, something that you did for somebody else that just made you feel like you were on top of the world, whatever that thing is. And you just want to do more of that, whatever that thing may have been.
Exactly.
Like you just know that it, like, I don't know if you knew who he was, I don't know if you knew why or anything like that, but like to this day you remember that memory vividly of that guy showing up at your door to bring you guys a meal.
Yeah. He
And
actually, he actually coincidentally uh, came up to close by, and we visited recently, which was pretty cool. He's a lot older than me, but
that's so cool.
yeah, he stayed in my life. But yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm just going to go back to what I said from the beginning. The person that cares the most wins the most. And that if we continue to care for others, genuinely care, and not expect anything in return, um, the return will be greater. And that's pretty much this whole podcast. We're talking about that. Like how do we care more? And I tell my team that all the time. Like, how do we care more? Because if it's genuine, then people want to work with you, right? People want to work with you if you add value from a genuine perspective. If you genuinely care, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna buy a candy for this guy and hopefully he gives me hopefully he gives me business later. It's like, no, I'm gonna go on Facebook, see that his wife loves horses, and buy him something that to do with horses so that he can give it to her, and because I care. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
like who would not want to work with someone like that, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that I hear frequently from my mentor, just on the journey that I've started in, some of the things that I want to achieve and things, is just that the more you help other people reach where they want to go or
Yep.
attain something that they want to achieve, the more likely you are to get to where you want to be. Because
Yep.
you
Zig
never
Ziglar.
know.
Zig Ziglar, that's who said it.
I say,
Yep.
I don't know the precise wording, but I know that that's like the way the quote goes. Um, but
That's
like
it,
I said,
pretty
like
much.
my mentor, like he hits on that all the time. And
Mhm.
it's just something that I've started to envelop too, to where now I want to help other people get to where they want to go. That's where a
Yep.
lot of this, the inspiration for this show came from. And that's what I carry with me into all of these conversations on here.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I mean,
it's
I'll tell
like,
you one thing. People love working with me because I have goals for them, right? Like I want them. And every day I wake up, and when people join my team, I think about how do we get them closer to where they want to be, right? And they know that, and I literally, within my bones, I want them to hit those goals, right? I'm not hardcore accountability type of person, but I genuinely want them to hit those goals. And that's why people love working with me, is because I genuinely care. And I keep saying that, but it's true, you know?
no, I mean, I think that's so important because I mean, deep down, like no matter how much we say otherwise, every single one of us wants to be a part of a team and a family. We want to feel like we belong. We want to be around people who care about us. And if you can carry that with you to every interaction that you have, like you're going to leave a mark on so many people that you may never know, you may never meet, but eventually that's all going to come back to you, as that quote we just spoke.
Yep.
And I just think that that's so important, especially like in the business world too, because a lot of people think it's extremely cutthroat. And, nobody really realizes that there's still down to earth people out there that are really just out there, like, grinding every single day because they want to leave a mark on you. They want to make your life better too. I've just met somebody here recently that, I mean, a lot of people might think, some people in the like real estate investment space are out here to just make a buck. They just want the returns. They just want this and that. But there's such like a, I'm trying to think of the right word. There's such like such a powerful why behind like the reason that they are doing raises for these investments to create affordable housing, to create safe housing and things like that. Like I don't want to go too deep into it, but just the point is like
Yeah.
that a lot of people think it's so cutthroat. They think it's so like, people are just out here to make money. They're really just out here to exploit all these things, but that's not what it is in all cases. And that's just why I think it's so important, for people like you and me to come out here and show how much we care and really explain to these people like how much we just want to give and see them do well and see
Yeah.
them do better and help them achieve whatever that thing is for them. And
Yeah.
I just think that's so important.
I agree. You know, I don't smoke cigars, but recently I was smoking a cigar with one of my mentors, and he's basically a billionaire, right? He's worth like about 800 million. Um, and everything I talked about today, he's gone through as well. And he just gives out so much value. He gives out so much value. And he doesn't ask for anything in return, right? He doesn't. It's crazy. Like he doesn't, but people are drawn to him because he just gives, right? He just gives. Um, and he doesn't really expect anything in return, and people want to work with him. like that's it, you know? Um, and that's the secret, man. I mean, really, if you continually give, if you continually care, um, and you continually be positive at all times throughout every single obstacle, um, you're gonna win, right? Like that's it. You're gonna win. It's gonna work out. Um, and I have to remind myself that sometimes as well, like if I'm going through a hard time. One time, one of my flips, um, one of my properties, it was during that same time of the freeze, and I opened the door, and this house is trashed already. That's why I bought it for such a good price. This is, I stepped in, and splash, there was water all over the house, right? And to me, I'm like, God dang it. Like I literally just spent so much money on this house, and now I've got to remediate the entire house, and start over, right? And what ended up happening was insurance paid for it, right? And I was just being positive the whole time. They actually ended up paying for a lot of the rehab, so it saved me more money, right? But most people would think, oh man, this is a big problem. We're gonna have to start all over, blah blah blah. But I even have videos on my Instagram saying, we're gonna figure this out. It doesn't matter. We're gonna figure this out. It doesn't matter. And I kept a smile on even in those videos on my Instagram, and I saved them too because I want to remember this time. And it ended up being one of the biggest profits of my flips. $221,000 I made from that one house. But I could have completely broken down and just given up, so yeah.
No, and I think that's, I mean, I've already said it numerous times, but I just think that's so powerful. Just like being able to see the positive, like regardless of the situation.
Mhm.
I say, and I apologize, I was looking around a little bit there. I wasn't realizing I was going to have lighting difficulties.
Yeah,
It
you're
was
good.
raining earlier. I don't know what it's doing now, but but I just want to like ask you before we go ahead and wind it down, like if, and I know like we've talked about a lot of different things here so far today, just how much giving can also help retain that positive attitude, seeing the good in somebody else's life. But what would you say we can do as business people or just in general, like to help carry more of a positive attitude with us? What can we do to try to, what's the word, like try to focus more on the good than the bad when those situations do arise?
Yeah, shut off the news. I mean, the news is the most toxic thing in the world. And literally, people are getting brainwashed by bad news. I mean, they make money based off of emotionally triggering you with headlines, and most headlines are bad news, right? Two is wake up early and write down your goals. Like one of the first things I do in the morning is write down my goals. I literally have it right here. I have sold certain amount of homes, like in every single page. Every morning I write down my goals. I have flipped a certain amount of homes, and I write my goals down. I listen to a positive podcast. One of the first things I do in the morning is listen to a positive podcast. Um, and I surround myself with people that are positive. If you want to become better at playing pool, then you surround yourself with people that are really good at playing pool. If you want to become better at playing ping pong, then you surround yourself with becoming better at with people that are really good at playing ping pong. And if you want to become more positive, guess who you got to hang out with? More positive people. So sometimes you have to decide, and the Greek word decide means to literally cut off, right? So sometimes you have to decide to choose to hang out with the right people, right? And that means to cut off the wrong people, you know? And that's a hard thing for a lot of people. And sometimes it's family members, right? Sometimes it's people that are very close to you. But the longer you hold on to those people, the longer you're going to be held back. And it's just so important to do those three things. You know, those are just three quick tips, but turn off the news. It's not good for you. Write down your goals every single morning, and then surround yourself with really good people.
No, I seriously love that so much. I love the idea of just manifesting, writing those goals every day and reminding yourself. I think it's a really good tool just to remind yourself why you're doing it too. Because there's going to be times that, things go wrong. You're going to get upset. You're going to get angry. You're going to be, questioning, oh, why did I buy this house? Why did I do this? You're going to be like, things like that happen in emotional situations. But like by doing that every morning, you're reminding yourself why you're here.
Yep.
Like, because when you're writing down that goal every morning, you're going to remember why you started. You're going to say, like, I am going to flip this many houses. I'm going to do ABC because of this big goal in my brain that I want to see manifested in my life.
Yep.
And I just think that's so powerful to, one, keep you motivated, but also to help you see the positives in that situation, because you can then say, despite all of this chaos that's going on right now, I still have this goal. And this matters to me. I have this purpose, and I've made it my obligation to achieve this thing.
Yeah. And I think the reason why I write my goal, one of the reasons why, or what helps me write my goals every morning, is because it helps me make every single decision. It makes every single decision that I make, it has to be aligned with my goal, right? So if it's not aligned with my goal, then that decision has to change. And so, I've had huge opportunities come to me and, hey, John, we want you to work with this, or we want you to help out with this, or we want you to do this, and we'll give you a certain amount of money. But if it's not aligned with my goals, then I have to say no, right? Like, the more disciplined I am with the decisions I make towards the goals that I set, the faster I'm going to get to that goal.
I just think that's so powerful. I mean, and that's like, goals is a whole nother rabbit hole that we could go down. But I do think it's about time for us to start wrapping it up here. John, I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, for being, so transparent about your story and the experiences that you've had, and, just sharing what you've learned from those experiences and how you carry that with you today to, have this effect on the world that we speak about. One question that I always like to ask the guests before, we wrap this up, is that if you could go back in time and have a conversation with yourself during one of those ground zero moments. I know you can't necessarily have a conversation with yourself, with your 2-year-old self, but if you can go back and have a conversation with yourself during one of those ground zero moments, what do you think you would tell yourself in that conversation?
Buy Bitcoin. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. No, but a real answer would be is to find an amazing mentor that genuinely cares, right? So like for me, when I first got into real estate, I wasn't doing that well for the first 5 months. Then I joined a team, and I had an amazing mentor. And getting a really good mentor is like a shortcut to where you want to be, right? And so, and the hard part about it is there's a lot of people out there that are very selfish, right? They actually are only in it for themselves. So you have to be really good at discerning who is a good mentor, right? And you may have to say no, or you may have to, change your options if you've committed to a certain mentor. But definitely find someone that is good at what you want to do, and there will be a shortcut for you to get there.
Absolutely. No, I think that's so powerful. And just one more follow-up question for that to, to the young guys out there who may not have a mentor yet. How can we try to discern that relationship and make sure that it is one that is mutually beneficial and not just one-sided?
Well, here's some advice. Look at their results, right? Look at the people that they're surrounding themselves with. Maybe do some digging and ask the people that have experience with these people. Ask them questions, um, and I would never listen to someone unless they had amazing results, right? Like I would never listen to someone's advice unless like they actually lived it out and they have experience, right? So I guess, and another thing is just your gut. Trust your gut, right? They're your gut usually will tell you if this person's a good person or not. But yeah, do your homework, you know.
No, you're right. And I think that's extremely important because you can find out a lot just by asking around and seeing what other people see about
Yep.
those people. I mean, and even in some cases, like if this person has like a good following on some sort of like social media platform or anything like that, you don't even necessarily have to ask around, just check the comments.
Yeah.
In
Well, there
some
was a time
cases,
there where there
in
was a
some
lot of
cases.
yeah, yeah. There was a lot time there where there was a lot of YouTube gurus that like just they rented their Lambos and looked the part, but they actually did have zero value in their zero substance, right? And
Yeah.
so it's so important to do your homework, trust your gut, and ask people that may maybe past clients or people, friends or whatever. Ask them their true intentions, and that's my piece of advice for sure.
No, absolutely. I think that's great. Sorry, one more question before we do go. If anybody wants to follow up and get in touch with you after today's conversation, where would be the best place for them to do so?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you want some, awesome content, if you want to learn how to flip, if you want to learn how to invest, if you want to learn how to just, I've gone through a lot too. So if you've gone through similar things, I would highly suggest you giving me a follow on Instagram at Sold by John Perez, and I'd love to help. Send me a DM as well. Um, I genuinely care. So if you do have any questions about real estate, if you have any questions about how to let go of past trauma or anything, I want to be a resource for sure. So that's at Sold by John Perez on Instagram.
I love that, man. Thank you so much. I mean, just for, your energy and, everything that you are. I can say I got that dopamine boost today.
That's awesome.
Seriously though, like just, I mean, your energy is so powerful. And I just love the fact that that you genuinely care about people that you don't even know and about people that may or may not ever even reach out to you, that you may never even get a chance to meet. And yet here you are, what I mean, offering anything that you can. And that's what I love about, this network that, I'm continuing to cultivate and these people that I continue to meet. Shout out Matt Tyke for the connection here today.
I,
Another prime example.
yep.
So, with that, man, I just want to say thank you so much again for being willing to come on here today and just, like share, everything that's going on in your life. Cause a lot of that's some pretty heavy stuff. So, being
Yeah.
willing to come on here and be open and transparent about all of that, extremely powerful. And I just want to say thank you so much. Uh, but with that, everyone that's tuned in, remember, go reach out to John at Sold by John Perez on Instagram. Shoot him a DM about, anything, as he just said. But with that, thank you again, John. Always remember, everybody tuned in. This is Dream Chasers Ground Zero. There's nowhere to go from here. But thanks again, John.
See ya.